Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
E.
Starting it off with Raw, Survivor Series is coming together. Something you didn't expect to happen happened, and Asuka ended up murdering someone, which everybody expected, and then being rewarded with a spot on Team Raw.
Now there's no way Raw can lose that match.
Locked in, Asuka's got to win.
Yeah, unless you're going to waste all that build-up on her undefeated streak on her losing in a multi-person match.
Yeah, it definitely makes no sense for that to be the end of what has happened. Honestly, I kind of expect her to be sole survivor just because she's Asuka. But we'll have to wait and see. I definitely agree in that Raw is going to pick up the win now in that match. And also finding a spot on the team is Sasha Banks. Makes sense.
Yep.
It brings as far as I know, the team's official members to being Alicia Fox, Nia Jax, Asuka, and Sasha Banks. One spot left to go to one of Bayley, Mickie James, Dana Brooke, or the Super Long Shot page. That was Wikipedia giving me that list, so that's why Paige is on it. Not my personal opinion that Paige is going to magically return.
Yeah, besides, Paige is technically still a Raw rostered wrestler. Although the last I heard of any rumor of her coming back, if she came back, she'd be going to SmackDown.
I think it definitely pushing Dana Brooke out of the picture. I don't even expect her to be in the picture at this point. It's going to come down to Bayley or Mickie James. And I could see it swinging both ways. Mickie obviously just recently challenging Alexa Bliss for the title, but Bayley, I don't know where we're going with her. It's always hard to judge.
Yeah, she was one of the two survivors in last year's Survivor Series match. So it was her and Charlotte were the survivors for the Raw, Team Raw.
And after being
and the only match that Team Raw actually won last year.
Maybe we'll see a repeat again. But yeah, I think honestly it's leaning towards Bayley here. I think Mickie James, after her title match, sort of just faded away into what needs to be, and I think Bayley will take the last spot. Whether it means anything, probably not. I know we constantly assume we're heading towards Sasha Bayley.
Especially with Alicia Fox being part of the people that mocked Mickie James for her age. I can see Bayley getting it over Mickie just because of that.
Yeah, I don't know. That happened a couple weeks ago. We're meant to forget that happened. We jump out of the women's division now, and we look at Jason Jordan. Good week for him. He defeats Elias in a guitar on a pole match, and then his daddy gives him a spot in Team Raw.
Yep, the fifth and final member, which at the time we thought meant that Roman Reigns was not going to be cleared for Survivor Series.
Yeah, so the rumor heading into it was that Roman Reigns was going to be that fifth man in the match, but I think two things that happened on Raw changed that. Obviously, Jason Jordan getting the fifth spot meant it couldn't be Roman. But then the main event shifted whether he could be back or not, and then I'm pretty sure they outright said he was going to be.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back on Raw next week.
At
least that was the announcement made.
Yeah.
In Raw.
But if we look at Jason, I'm gonna shed a single tear out of my left eye when he's going to get booed to all hell. I don't know what it is, but he is going to get booed out of the building. And that's a huge assumption, but I got a feeling. I think Survivor Series is not going to be a pretty night for him. I think he's, in looking at who is on Team Raw and who is on Team SmackDown, he's outclassed by a million miles. And I think that's through no fault of his own, and this is the way you will build talent. You got to put them in there with the big boys and see how they roll, but you list the names, his name's at the bottom.
Yeah, he may be in just so he can take the first fall for Team Raw.
I think there's definitely going to be some storyline implications in here, obviously with his dad being in there and something happening there. It did seem like the guitar on a pole was a nice end to Elias Jordan, so maybe we're going to see Jordan move on to something from here. Maybe. It's an easy way to do it. Two of those members of Team Raw that we're saying that were a lot better. Finn and Joe. We got to see them face off again.
You're just adding more to the fuel to the fact that Team Raw's members don't like each other.
I think SmackDowns are all happy and good with each other, but Raw's you got Kurt Angle, who's just doing it because he was told to do it. Braun Strowman that wants to murder everybody he sees. Bella and Joe who hate each other, and Jason Jordan that's only there because his dad's the general manager.
And Braun's feuded with at least, and you had Braun and Joe were in the Survivor SummerSlam title match. Then you had just Finn, who wants to regain his title, and doesn't like Joe. So
it's a combustible elements, but when we get to
and you have
SmackDown,
Joe that probably doesn't like, and you have Joe that probably doesn't like Kurt Angle.
yeah, I think a lot of people hate their general managers. But when we get to SmackDown, I feel like there's an odds evener that'll get us there. But I think Team Raw, on paper, with nothing else being talked about, going to be dysfunctional as hell. And I think that's a damn given. Even if other things happen on the SmackDown side, Raw is not going to work together nicely. As is evident when Braun Strowman tries to kill the Miz, but Kane gets in his way. Will we see a repeat at Survivor Series?
I will say that Kane is why Braun will not be the sole survivor. He'll probably appear, Braun will chase after him and get counted out, or get Braun disqualified.
I think Kane is definitely going to be a reason why he will be eliminated. As you said, whether it's a count out or a disqualification, there will be something there. Strowman Kane is what we're building to. It's going to be great between the two of them, and we'll see how it plays out.
Unless you're a Finn Balor fan.
Well, yeah, but Braun Kane makes a little more sense. Hey.
Yeah, but I mean, just because Finn was been fed to Kane to build Kane up, people were pissed off about that.
Yeah, but Kane is a wily old veteran with a whole lot of skill behind him, and can take out the best of people on their worst days. And yeah, it's a necessary evil. Finn needed to lose that to make Kane look like he is still a monster. He's not just some old washed-up politician dude. And Finn at this point can lose and come back 500,000 times.
Yeah, besides it was Finn that lost, not the demon.
True. What else we got? Yeah, so Braun still kills the Miz. Miz still not in a good place. Curtis Axel, he exists. He didn't get written off yet.
No. Still, that was as close to a televised murder as you can get last week.
Yep. Yeah, it was brutal on Axel, but he's still kicking. He's still running around.
Axel's surprisingly over.
I like that. Cruiserweights. The cruiserweights that went on tour to the UK were a little light. They needed a little bit of help from a local division, the UK division, and Pete Dunne comes out and beats the ever-loving hell out of Enzo, and everybody cheers.
That was interesting. That was what I wanted for Survivor Series, if you remember. I wanted SmackDown to call down the NXT and get the United Kingdom champion and borrow him for a night. But we got it on Raw.
Better than not getting it. And the Cruiserweights interacted with the UK division all the way through 205 Live as well, so it was a little bit of a mix and match because they're in obviously the UK at the moment, so we can pop around and have a few shares and not bring every single cruiserweight with them. It's good to see a little bit of a mixy match here. I don't know if anybody cares or if anybody checked they were all under the weight limit or anything. I don't know if that was an importance.
There is a cruiserweight that's been signed, or at least rumored to have signed, that I would like to see form a tag team with Jack Gallagher.
I'm believing that you are talking about Rockstar Spud.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that would be an absolute fun tag team.
It'd be interesting. I liked Spud from his work on Impact. He was one of the very few things that I actually got to see from Impact. Good talent, good hand. Perfectly fine with him going to the Cruiserweight division, which has lost Neville, so it could do with a little bit of a bolster.
And they would be perfect, I think, if you're going to introduce a tag team division for 205 Live.
And why is that? Because they're both from the UK.
Yes.
Let me talk to you about a cruiserweight who's not from the UK. His name's Johnny Gargano. Somehow at NXT War Games, he will be fighting for the UK Championship. Explain. There's no explanation here,
Just
right?
because he might have worked for ICW at some point.
It's somehow already in like one match. The UK tournament is getting more crossover than anything. But I'm assuming Gargano isn't going to win the title purely because I don't expect a non-British dude to be running around with it, or a non-United Kingdom resident to be running around with it. But we'll see. Maybe I get shocked.
A lot of people lost their minds when Triple H showed up for ICW last week. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's basically a WWE developmental program.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he show up for it if they're in the UK at the time?
Yeah. No extra skin off his back to pop in and show up. So we'd better get to the main event here. The Bar, new tag team champions. Sorry for the spoils. Because the New Day come out and cost the Shield the match.
In a way, yes. But it was only because it was a distraction. They didn't actually literally cost them the match. It was just a distraction, and the tag team champions forgot that the match was still going on.
Everybody forgets there's a match going on. But the interesting part is that now the match has changed. The Survivor Series match.
And now we have the Usos versus the Bar. And we're probably getting the Shield versus the New Day as the Shield's official return match.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, they're considered the two most over factions that WWE's had in the last, I'd say 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I think the Shield and New Day were more popular than even the reunions of DX.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you that. I think the Shield, like, number one in God knows how long, and then the New Day have just lasted as this comedy act that can go out there and wrestle. That essentially come off as a couple of dudes going out and having some fun, which is, I think, how the longevity of that has worked.
And it's very convenient that both groups are three-man groups.
I think with Roman coming back, it's also definitely cemented that all 6 men will be available, and the New Day were really heading up the whole anti-Raw sort of squad. So I definitely think we'll see a 6-man here. By the way, I predict keep an eye on SmackDown next week. Keep an eye on it. There'll definitely be no invasion or under siegeness or anything. It'll be perfectly fine.
If I'm looking, I don't do an invasion.
Okay.
I do random attacks. Like you just find people randomly knocked out.
Yeah.
Just to mess with their heads, and then at the end of the show, then you have everybody come out and surround Shane and take him out and take him with them.
Yeah, could easily work. I think it's obvious that Raw will retaliate then. I don't think they'll retaliate at any point before then. It's kind of hard for them to retaliate at any point before then, but yeah, it's sort of an arc. Like, they got attacked last week, and then this week they got their act together and were ready to defend when the New Day showed up, and then next week they take it back out and do a counterattack. For once, we're actually getting a nice arc with wrestling rather than a rushed or stretched out storyline.
And a lot of people were like, they were disappointed that Raw didn't go after him right away. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. SmackDown's going to be ready. You have to do it when they're not going to be expecting it if you're going to do it. And WWE has played it right so far.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I don't think anything's wrong with it. I think the SmackDown vs. Rawness has been perfectly played off, and I'm fine with it, and I want to see what happens at Survivor Series. And next week on SmackDown. We'll go into our theme in honor of his appearance on Raw. It's going to be the UK Champions theme. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup. FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. We're on the SmackDown side now. We got a lot to get through here. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they still hate Shane McMahon.
Not surprising, and they got left off of Team SmackDown. So I don't blame them for being mad.
not even. There's only 5 spots. I know Shane stole one for himself, but still, so many slots.
Yeah, but they never. But they didn't even get the chance to qualify, did they?
Yeah, they both did, didn't they? They lost matches to. Let me check who's on the list. They lost matches to Shinsuke, because we had Shinsuke Owens, or was it? Yeah, and we had, I believe, Orton Zane. I don't know why they lost. I don't know if it was. I don't remember if it was a dodgy loss or if it was a happy-go-lucky loss. But they're definitely still pissed off. To me, we're still waiting and seeing. God knows by the time this comes out to air, like every other news story, it's going to have broken and developed 100 different times. And I know you have your opinions on it, but I'll just try and get the headliney bits out. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn were booked to continue the European tour. Matches were changed. They were no longer appearing in it. They appear to have been sent back to America, but they are still booked next week on SmackDown.
I think it's total 100% work that's going to work into how Raw wins the Survivor Series match.
So you're seeing Raw pick up 2 wins, at least.
Yeah, and I think SmackDown will probably pick up most of the singles matches, other than women's champions against women's champions, unless it's Charlotte. Unless Charlotte wins the title next week. I see Alexa Bliss winning that match if it's Natalya as the SmackDown Women's Champion.
Yeah.
I see the Usos winning the tag title match, the tag title champions match.
Yep.
It's kind of a toss-up for the Intercontinental versus U.S. champion. I think that might be the one singles match that Raw might win, but I could easily see Baron Corbin. So assuming he's still the champion, because he has to defend his title next week against Sin Cara.
Yeah, we got 2 different people that are still iffy on whether they will show up. As you mentioned, Natalya or Charlotte Flair as the SmackDown Women's Champion, and then whether we will see Baron Corbin or Sin Cara as the United States Champion. Props to Sin Cara for having what looked to be a very rough injury and coming back. Hopefully not as bad as everybody thought.
And obviously Raw will get the Universal versus WWE Championship match, but I don't really consider that Raw versus SmackDown. I just consider that SmackDown versus Brock Lesnar.
Yep. And we'll get to how that one has changed, but still, we'll look at SmackDown a little bit further. Rusev, Randy Orton, because of a last-minute change, ended up being the match for Rusev. He loses. Presumably that means Randy Orton earned to keep his spot. Not entirely sure.
No, Orton's spot was never on the line.
Okay, it was if Rusev won.
It was all about Rusev. If Rusev won the match, he was on the team.
And if he lost, it was randomly given to John Cena.
It was yeah. I'll give Rusev props. There's nobody in the WWE right now that sells the RKO like him.
It's great. That's all I can say about that. And I think Rusev's taken a lot of everything coming in from a lot of directions. And he's John Cena though. And I think because of a lot of changes very rapidly in the main event of Survivor Series, John Cena was no longer needed as a special guest referee, and as such took the spot that was no longer needed because somebody else picked up the title, essentially. It seems like everybody had a bit of a shuffle about.
And it may just simply be because of an injury.
Yeah, it may be an injury. It may be a plethora of factors. I don't know if Jinder kept working the European tour or not, but we'll wait and see. Might as well talk about it, just because there's no point in skipping over it. AJ Styles is the new WWE Champion. The match was made probably a day after we recorded or something. It was fairly straight afterwards that the match was going to take place. AJ Styles picks up the win, and we don't get December 11th.
No, yeah, we don't get December 17th unless Jinder wins the title back in India, which is always a possibility.
Yeah. It seemed as though if the rumors were true and we were going pre this match happening and we were going to have Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal with John Cena as a special guest referee, it seemed to be building towards Jinder as champion versus John Cena for the title at a WrestleMania. We seem to have backed off from that. John Cena's moved away for a little while, so it's possible Jinder picks up the title and we start running with that storyline again, or if we completely 180 and just flip it around and do a completely different storyline. I'm still not sure. It seems like a very sudden change to go from AJ Styles versus Rusev for a spot on the line to AJ, you're now champion, let's go.
And here I was sitting here saying, no, it's not going to be Cena Mahal for the title.
You've always said it isn't.
I said it was going to be AJ Nakamura, and I still say that.
Well, this has kind of tipped it in your favor a hell of a lot between the argument. When randomly we give AJ Styles the title, it's a lot harder to have
just
Jinder Cena.
Ironically, the day after he got his own WWE Network collection.
I saw that you thought that was a CO conspiracy. But yeah, we'll see. I think Styles at this point is a perfect hand. You can just give him the title and he will run with it and he will do absolutely brilliantly. I look forward to seeing him get absolutely demolished by Brock Lesnar. Good luck.
Congratulations, you're the WWE champion. Your reward? You get to be suplexed 13 times.
The only downside is we don't get to see the Singh brothers being thrown into orbit. Not yet. We got two more things that we should mention before we quickly run out of time. Benjamin and Gable fail to pick up the SmackDown tag titles because of a count-out.
Because of an injury to the Usos, which may or may not change the tag match for Survivor Series.
It's hard to tell here whether the plan was for Benjamin and Gable to pick up the titles and the match to change already, or if the Usos were meant to retain and the injury just sort of cut the match short, or what, but we'll wait and see. I think if anything is seriously wrong with the Usos and we're swapping it, I can see them putting in a temporary replacement of someone like Benjamin and Gable, and just having it be the Raw Tag Team Champions versus essentially the champions is the wrong word here, the representative of the SmackDown Tag Team division. Possibly even having a 3 or 4 way tag team match to decide that.
I would say it depends on how injured that Uso is. If it's enough that they might have to relinquish the titles,
true.
Then I would do a fatal 4-way to determine the new champion on SmackDown, and let that person battle the Bar at Survivor Series.
I think again it's a wait and see. It's the European tour is notorious for stuff going wrong. We already saw Sin Cara go out with injury. Luckily he's straight back. The Usos, we'll wait and see what happens here. But yeah, a lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff. And then let's be news sources. Let's report on the intergender match on SmackDown here. Let's sensationalize it. Essentially, Becky Lynch just beats the hell out of James Ellsworth and snaps his arm a little bit.
Yeah, that was fun. They finally got to do it after months of begging for it. That's the first intergender match that I can think of since Lita and Heath Slater Raw 1000.
Yeah,
I heard somebody said there was an interspecies match involving El Torito and Natalia in 2015, but that's not really. I don't really consider that as qualifying for what we're talking about here.
No, I can't find a list quick enough. But normally we'd see mixed tags, and everybody would be very separated.
Yeah, I was blown away when I saw them announce that there was going to be an intergender match. I'm like, wait, WWE's doing that?
Yeah, it surprised me as well. It was interesting, and it played out exactly the way I expected to until the ending. Bit of a rough night for James.
Yeah, I think he got dumped too.
Well, I gotta take a hint, right? A super kick to the face is definitely you being dumped. I know if I was dating some chick and she came up and super kicked me in the face, I probably wouldn't call her the next night. I'd assume it's over. All this does, much like last time Ellsworth was finished with AJ Styles, is brings up the question of what the hell are we going to do next with him?
Send him to 205 Live.
I don't even have to ask if he's under the weight limit. I'm going to assume he's under it.
Yeah.
80 kgs. That's useful, thanks. 176. Yeah, he's a little under it. Okay, my new favourite thing, right? Wikipedia for James Ellsworth. His picture is him laying on the mat knocked out. And then a blown up. The only two pictures is him laying on the mat knocked out, and then a bigger picture of that, which is AJ Styles holding the title over top of him with his arm raised. God, I love this. But yeah, we'll see. I think 205 Live could potentially work for the dude. It seems like 205 Live is almost just like a throwaway place. We got nothing to do with you, and you're under the weight limit. Get yourself into 205 Live. And then there's Sin Cara, who broke his way out of 205 Live and is now wrestling for the US title.
Well, technically, Sin Cara was never really in 205 Live.
No, he did wrestle matches in the Cruiserweight division, though. He was in the six-mans and stuff. I don't think he was ever too largely involved in anything else, but he was there at one point. What are we gonna... It's pretty much it, right? There's nothing else I've missed. We'll end on that. It's been great talking to you.
BB.
Visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingR Radio, our Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingR Radio. We'll see you next week.